Bernard, you look good. Welcome back.
Thank you very much indeed. Great to have you guys. Thanks for your support over the weekend.
And I'm interested in your double preventive measure.
I have a face shield, and it was given to me by my sister-in-law, Miriam Oboni. She's a nurse.
You look like Terminator 12.
Yes. So I want to send special shouts to my brother's wife, Miriam.
Yeah.
She gave me a face shield, and she says I should wear it when she sees me on the TV talking plenty like that.
You must wear it.
I need to have double protection.
You must wear it.
So Miriam, thank you.
Okay. Anyway, front page of the Daily Graphic, Bernard. Voters registration begins today. Exercise to last 38 days. Go out and register. President urges Ghanaians, GHS 3 students back to school.
Now, the Ghanaian Times. President directs Auditor General to take accumulated leave. Voter registration begins today. President urges all to register. NDC Voter MPs caucus demands immediate withdrawal of military personnel. Military deployment not to intimidate residents. This is the defense minister. And EC deploys 44,000 officials for registration exercise.
Front page of the Daily Statesman newspaper. December election is for Ghanaians. President cautions unqualified persons to stay away from voters' registration. Government has no agenda against any tribe, says the defense minister. And the dumb-level story is also on the front page of the paper.
Now, the finder, 6 days for each phase. EC explains 5-phase cluster system. Elections in December is a must. There is no other way. President Akufo-Addo. And protection of countries' borders is for safety of Ghanaians, not tribalism. Upon Nkrumah.
Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper. Mahama picks a Wadako. Comes with a photo of Mr. Kingsley Kwame. A Wadako. New voters register begins and soldiers won't interfere in registration.
Now, the Chronicles. Soldiers in Volta scare NDC. There's a picture of Fifi Kwete, MP for Ketu South. We won't withdraw military. Nitwu says they are not there to intimidate residents but to secure our borders. President orders Domelevo to proceed on leave. And guarantor system of registration not new. This is the EC.
Front page of the BNFT finally from me, Bernard. BOG confident of stable Citi despite 2% depreciation.
Now, if you check the new crusading guide, proceed on leave, Akufo-Addo directs Auditor General. NPP parliamentary primaries can crunches supporters petition dispute resolution committee for recount. Adopt ways to live with COVID-19, Dr. Kojo Trematin is advising, and Ghana needs democratic transformation.
Moving online, citynewsroom.com. Domelevo leave directive an attempt to push him out. Vitus Azim. Election 2020 mass voter registration exercise starts today. Alabili's NDC team for election 2020, and also Nanado justifies military deployment along borders. There's a lot of stories along those lines. We also have Ghana not on list of countries permitted into Europe from July the 1st, and EC outlines 9 safety guidelines for voter registration exercise. And I'm sure you know this already. 7,000 health personnel released for the exercise, 44,000 EC officials, 33,000 polling stations. We'll do a quick update on that this morning on the City Breakfast Show. CityBusinessNews.com. We'll keep checking fuel stations to protect consumers. COPEC insists. Also, free water for Ghanaians ends today. Akufo-Addo directs Domelevo to proceed on accumulated leave. And Dr. Kaufman pushes for dedicated funding for biomedical engineering research. Splendid interview yesterday. MyJournalline.com. Soldiers only guarding borders, not preventing registration of eligible Ghanaians. This is the president. Also, I won't apologize. Katie Amon defense comments on military deployment. And NDC appoints national campaign team for 2020 election is also here. Meanwhile, the EC has something interesting to say. Registrants will not spend more than 10 minutes at registration centers.
Nice.
That would be good, because 2012 I spent like 3 days. I still couldn't get, and there were so many people. I go and come, I won't get. I go, like the queue was just too long. So that was 2012. I was in 2011, the year that I got my latest card. Now, if you go to Star, their lead story, Ketu South, immigration officer brutalizes 19-year-old student. Also, I don't want to be winner of a rigged election. This is Akufo-Addo. And then December 7 should be Ghanaian election, not West African election. The president says so. Ghana News Agency also using Akufo-Addo's last night's speech. It says, election 2020 cannot be postponed, Akufo-Addo president says. Meanwhile, Opon Nkrumah says, Katie Amon's comments on soldiers deployment, not government position. Okay. And then my majority leader advocates bipartisan approach for EC commissioners. If you go to the BBC, China passes controversial Hong Kong security law. Meanwhile, there's a boycott that is threatening Facebook, and there's a good analysis by the BBC on this. And the question is, could a boycott kill Facebook? A lot of companies are not advertising. And then there's more US states pause reopening as cases surge. And then if you move to CNN, they're leading with Trump's national security abominations. Meanwhile, WHO is sending a team to China to research into how the virus started.
Hey.
Can you imagine?
Okay.
6 months afterwards. Let's start with you, EC.
Everything easy, Bernard.
Yes.
Front page of the Daily Graphic, story by Timothy Nyangbe. After a protracted brawl over the compilation of a new voters register for the December 7, 2020 polls, all is set for the EC to conduct the mass voters registration exercise for a new electoral roll. The exercise will be undertaken in 5 phases to cover 33,367 polling stations put into 6,788 clusters across the country. In a press conference held yesterday, the chairperson of the EC, Mrs. Jean Mensah, said more than 44,000 staff of the EC had been deployed to carry out the exercise in the 38-day exercise, which would end on August 6th this year. Additionally,
Talking about 7,000 health personnel.
Yeah, he said 8,000 biometric registration kits had been deployed for the nationwide exercise, which will see an estimated 16 million eligible Ghanaians present themselves to be registered and issued with biometric voter identification cards. She also said the commission had deployed 5,000 technicians across the country to fix faulty registration kits. Now, with the police as well, they are saying they are prepared to provide adequate security for the exercise.
And one can only register with a Ghana card issued by the NIA or a valid passport, or 2 persons who have registered and been issued voter ID cards to serve as guarantors.
Let me give you more on the EC. Registrants will not spend more than 10 minutes at registration centers. This is the myjoyonline.com. Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jim Mensah, has assured registrants that they will not spend more than 10 minutes at their various registration centers when the exercise begins today. According to her, then the details you gave are there. Then let's go to the other issue. Addo justifies military deployment along borders. And then I'll start with the GNA version, because the GNA version refers to what the Information Minister said about Katie Amon's comment. And I'll come to the President. Information Minister Kojo Oponkroma says the comments made by Mr. Katie Amon, the MPP member of Parliament for Adansi Asukwa, to the effect that the government deployed soldiers to Volta and OT regions to prevent Togolese from registering for the new voter cards, are not a representation of government's position. Mr. Oponkroma, responding to NDC's claims that government had deployed soldiers to suppress NDC votes in its strongholds at a news conference on Monday, said there were a number of government functionaries who were recognized to put out government information. He said that list did not include Katie Amon, basically saying the president and vice president, information ministry, ministers or deputy ministers of a sector ministry, and the press secretary office of the president. Mr. Oponkroma entreated the media to exercise circumspection whenever they are attributing government's position on issues to members of parliament, especially when that MP is not in government or a government appointee. He said, quote, Mr. Katie Amon's suspicion about what might be the reason for the deployment of soldiers is not government's position, and we must be clear in distinguishing his views and that of government's position. Then what's interesting is that then the defense minister spoke.
Yeah.
But then his view was also overridden by the president's speech.
Yeah, there's a clear difference.
Yes, I don't know if funny thing, most people are quoting the president and not the defense minister, which I find quite interesting.
Not because the president is the president.
Yeah, but the defense minister's press conference was to respond to that particular issue.
Yes.
But if I go to the president's own comments, for example, Addo justifies military deployment along Ghana's border, that's citinewsroom.com. If you go to GNA, they also quote the president. They don't quote.
But Statesman has defense minister.
Okay, so
And
let's
the
hear that.
Chronicle also has a defense minister.
Okay,
let's hear
could you
those
take Chronicle?
two, then I'll give
Okay,
you the president.
Machalofori writes that the defense minister, Dominic Nitiwu, says the government has no intention of withdrawing the military personnel it has deployed to Volta, OT regions, and in fact, all the border regions, because they are not there for the voter registration exercise, but to secure our borders and also prevent the spread of COVID-19. The minister's statement follows a news conference addressed by the NDC members of parliament in the Volta region at Aflao, where they alleged that the military had been deployed to intimidate the residents from being registered by the EC for the December 7 election.
If you take the Daily Statesman quote on page 2, the defense minister is quoted as saying, "We have deployed soldiers across the entire country, and the purpose is to aid and support the Ghana Immigration Service to stop people from crossing into Ghana because we have too many unapproved routes and the COVID-19 numbers are getting higher and higher. And we will not sit aloof and allow people to die because people are crossing into our country."
Well, the president didn't really make reference to COVID. He was basically saying that they are there to protect the borders. And let me just read that story for you. The President Akufo-Addo has justified military deployment along the country's borders amid the compilation of a new voter register and the rising case of COVID-19, and addressed the nation. The president said the move is in the best interest of the country He said the deployment is to save the country against the intrusion of foreign nationals who have the potential of jeopardizing Ghana's democracy and the health efforts in these crucial moments. Okay, so there's a hint of a COVID issue there as well. And then he also says that the election cannot be postponed.
Yeah.
And I heard something interesting he said. He says, so for now, if you love your country, you have to come out and register. So he's almost urging Ghanaians, don't forget, he said stay home. This is like 3 months ago, and then 2 months ago, stay home. But basically saying that now you have to come out and register, because we cannot also have a constitutional crisis by not having an election on December 7th, and therefore we have to register, which is the first point of. So that's a sort of slight change in message. We'll bring you excerpts of that as well.
Okay.
Let's move into other stories.
Yeah, Domlevo has been asked to proceed on leave. If you go to Daily Guide on page 3, you find that story there. President Addo Akufo-Addo yesterday directed Auditor General Daniel Domlevo to proceed on leave with effect from tomorrow, Wednesday, July 1, 2020. A statement from the presidency signed by Director of Communications Eugene Ahen said the president's decision to direct Mr. Domlevo to take his accumulated annual leave is based on Section 21 and 33 of the Labour Act 2003 Act 651, which applies to all workers, including public office holders such as the Auditor General. It follows the accumulation of his annual leave of 123 working days, according to records available to the presidency.
Now, Alabi leads NDC 2020 campaign team. Stories on citinewsroom.com. Professor Joshua Alabi has been appointed the national campaign manager of the NDC ahead of the presidential and parliamentary elections in December 2020. A statement signed by the party's Director of Communication, Kakra Samoa, disclosed that former Health Minister Alessandro Fia will be serving as his deputy. The decision was taken at a Funks executive meeting held on Monday. Alabi served as Greater Accra Regional Minister under Rawlings administration, was once MP for Crowell in Greater Accra, joined academia, became the Vice Chancellor for UPSA, contested NDC flag bearer slot, which re-elected Mahama to lead the party. Other people in the campaign team: Lieutenant Colonel Laribevlo Latte, Director of Operations; James Ajidimboating, campaign spokesperson; Mawina Treba, Margaret Ansay, Deputy Campaign Spokesperson; General R.S. Blay, Strategic Advisor; Communication Officer Sami Jemfi is also part of the team; Julius Demba, former Chief of Staff; Kofi Tobikwachi, former Information Minister; Haruna Idrisu, Minority Leader; George Parado, Youth Organizer; and then Dr. Valerie Sawyer, former Deputy Chief of Staff; Elvis Ankra, Director of Elections; and Samuel Ofosu Ampofo make up the team. So that's the statement that came through. So a lot of politics this morning.
Yeah, and one more political story. NPP parliamentary primaries can Crancho supporters petition dispute resolution committee for recount. The New Crusading Guide reports that party supporters of Kenneth Crancho, a contestant of the NPP in the just ended parliamentary primaries in the Okaikwe North constituency, have petitioned the dispute resolution committee of the party for a recount, revote, and the removal of all unlawful proxy votes from the actual vote.
Revote?
Yes.
Wow.
That's the story according to the New Crusading.
All right, let's do some business.
Okay.
Free water to Ghanaians ends today.
Yes, and the government's payment of water bills for all Ghanaians because of the COVID-19 pandemic is set to end today after the planned 3-month period. The government took care of the water bills for all Ghanaians for April, May, and June 2020 to cushion Ghanaians when restrictions on public gatherings were instituted and the subsequent partial lockdown of Accra, Kaswa, Kumasi, and Tema.
Now, let me take you to page 3 of the BNFT paper. BOG confident of stable CD despite 2% depreciation. In spite of the annihilative impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the country's local currency, making it record its highest depreciation against the US dollar since the beginning of the year, the Bank of Ghana says it expects the cedi to gain stability as pressure on it has started easing. After hitting its hat trick by appreciating against the US dollar for the first quarter of the year, the cedi started losing grip on the dollar after the pandemic triggered capital flight to safety from emerging and developing economies.
And more on business, this time agribusiness. Stakeholders resolve to end rice importation by 2023.
Nice.
This is in the center spread of the Finder newspaper now. The story says various stakeholders in the rice value chain have reiterated their commitment to end rice importation by 2023. At a meeting organized by the John Ajekunkufor Foundation, the stakeholders discussed ways to ensure local rice production becomes a sustainable venture. The meeting brought together the Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body, Ghana Commodity Exchange, the Ghana Standards Authority, among others, to discuss strategies on how to achieve the set target to guard against the importation practice.
There's an interesting story here. Engage Lands Commission before buying land in the Volta Basin. This is the Lands Ministry. Story by Nesta Hinfo. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has urged persons interested in acquiring lands in the Volta Basin to consult with the Lands Commission before doing so. They made this known in a press statement signed yesterday, 29 June. Here's a quote. Any individual, private or public establishment, be it local or foreign, intending to acquire land in the subject area for any developmental land activities requested to contact the Lands Commission Secretariat in the region where the land is situated or the head office of the Commission in Accra for the needed guidance and assistance. Now, according to him, the Volta Basin has been set aside specifically for in-depth exploration and management of various natural resources within the basin's enclave to reduce the adverse impact on the environment. Now, the basin is a lopsided inland basin covering about 40% of Ghana's continental landmass. Now, the said areas include Ketekrachi, Prang, Yabraso, Buipe, Kanato, Larabanga, Tamale, Yendi, Timbangona, Nasia, coast of Keta, Kwewu in the eastern region, through to Atebu in the Bono East region. Now, this basin is suspected to also have oil deposits, so it's a key strategic asset, and I think the minister is right to say what he says.
Well, let me do some COVID since we are entering the international arena. And Ghana missing on EU-US entry list. Charlie, my hat. My hat.
They can't come here. So our people they can come.
But we need to travel.
People can come, but you can't
travel. Let me give you the story by Marvin
That is
Talwe.
reciprocity, right?
Yeah.
So once you say we can't come,
you
you
can't
can't
come. Yeah.
No, what strength are you going to?
No. That's
what it is.
That is what it is.
It's
Once the
standard
person
practice.
is basic law of international
So
relations.
if we open our borders,
No, I'm saying that if somebody says you won't allow your people,
you
you are
don't
within
allow
your right
them.
to say you won't allow them, and they can't take you anywhere.
yo,
But we allow them. Well, Ghana is missing on the list of 54 countries that have been granted travel permission to the EU. EU released the list on Monday, June 29, upon the July reopening of EU borders to international travelers. Also, Brazil, Nigeria, Qatar, US, and Russia failed to make the list due to their struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, I have
more
to
on
start.
COVID-19, Bernard.
Okay,
Let me give you one local one before you go international. KK Sapon commends COVID-19 private sector fund for impressive progress on Ghana's first infectious diseases facility. Now, he visited the facility and he's commended the team for the work they've done. But the team still needs more money to complete this 100-bed facility. And we can all donate by dialing *718*25*219# so that they can get the 6 million Ghana cedis they need to complete this facility.
Internationally, a lot of companies are boycotting Facebook.
What's happening there?
And among the latest to do so are Ford, Adidas, and HP.
Hey.
They joined earlier participants including Coca-Cola, Unilever, and Starbucks. News site Axios has also reported that Microsoft suspended advertising on Facebook and Instagram in May because of concerns about unspecified inappropriate content, a development the BBC can confirm. Now, major companies are pulling advertising from Facebook and other social media companies, and other platforms like Reddit and Twitch have piled on more pressure by taking anti-hate steps of their own. I think the basic issue is that Facebook is not doing enough to reduce hate speech and fake news, and some of these globally respected brands are punishing Facebook. But the only thing is that they are suspending ads for only a month. I think they are hoping Facebook will do something
Within that
about it.
period.
Now, if Facebook doesn't do something about it, we wonder whether the power of Facebook, in terms of those of us who consume the information, would sway the advertisers to come back, or whether the advertisers saying that they won't advertise could affect. For example, as we speak, Mark Zuckerberg's share price has dropped by 8%.
So that's about $7 billion.
He's £6 billion poorer.
He will survive.
If you give that money to government of Ghana, they can build.
The year of rose is complete.
My brother, and
The year of rose is
one man.
complete.
No Sino-Hydro.
Now, meanwhile, the company is defending its push against false news and saying that it is doing quite a lot to deal with this matter. So this is one thing you should keep an eye on. I'm sure Tech and Social Media Trends has a lot more on this. Then the other story, WHO is sending a team, I find that pretty interesting, to China to research how coronavirus actually started. Now, that's isn't that late in the day? Or am I confused?
Well,
For research, it's never too late. And yesterday, if you listen to the conversation we had with Dr. Kaufman, if we pushed more resources into research, we could be getting ourselves from a lot of the trouble.
Okay.
Now today, Dr. Mavis Oreku Asari will also be talking about how we can preserve tomatoes and other things to give value to
So the
farmers.
story says WHO is sending a team to China to better understand how the novel coronavirus started. DG Tendros Ghebreyesus said during a briefing on Monday, "We will be sending a team next week to China to prepare for that." Tendros said he hopes the visit will lead to understanding how the virus started and what we can do for the future to prepare. Tendros said the team will head to China next week. And he says the pandemic is not even close. Look at my face shield, crashing with the mic. He says the pandemic is not even close to being over. WHO says the coronavirus pandemic is far from coming to an end.
The West is yet to
anytime soon, according to the DG. Although many countries have made progress globally, the pandemic is actually speeding up. We are all in this together, and we are all in this for the long haul. Tedros said, we have already lost so much, but we cannot lose hope. He also said that Tuesday is 6 months since WHO first received a report of cases of pneumonia in China from an unknown cause, which will later be identified as caused by Corel. So today is actually the 6th month anniversary
of Corona.
Yeah. And there are 500,000 deaths, 10 million cases.
Yeah. And also you can check a story on page now, the Daily Graphic. Brazil says they will produce AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine. Now, AstraZeneca's vaccine is the most advanced of all the trials, of all the drugs that have been trialed as vaccines. And apparently Brazil is paying $127 million
for it.
Yes.
Let's pray it works. Thank you, Godfrey. Thank you, Kojo. That was the newspaper review. Coming up next is the Citi Business News. Stay with us on the Citi